If you're a tired parent who's been throwing all the spaghetti at the wall, hoping something will stick and your baby's sleep will get better, I encourage you to come to my workshop on August 26th. That's this coming Monday at 11 a.m. Now, I know that's not a very smooth segue. I feel like I'm selling you something, but I'm not. This workshop is free. There is a replay as well. We are going through in that workshop understanding why your baby's sleep looks the way it does. When you understand how your baby's sleep works and the things that are getting in the way of them sleeping more easily, it becomes a lot clearer what strategies make the most sense to support their sleep. I would love to see you there. You can sign up at familysleep.ca/free-workshop. Drop me a line if you have any questions. Now let's delve into this episode. I will apologize for the recording quality. I have been to Canada's Wonderland this week, and that's not the problem with the recording, but what is I spent a lot of time screaming, especially on the drop zone. I was screaming before it dropped, while I was dropping, and maybe even afterwards too. So my voice is a little choppy, and the recording seemed to not like my voice quality, so it does cut in and out. The material is still there. We are talking about bad habits in this episode. So stick around. I think this is going to give you a beautiful reframe on bad habits, what they are, and a new way to look at it. So here we go. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Baby Sleep Connection, a podcast that explores baby sleep and more through the lens of attachment and development. I'm your host, Heather Boyd. I'm a mom of 3, an occupational therapist, and a certified infant and family sleep specialist. If you are a tired parent who wants to support your baby's sleep holistically, keep listening as we delve into approaches that go well beyond the usual strategies of wake windows and bedtime routines. Your baby's sleep is connected with so much more.
The most common habits that I see parents come to me worrying about are nursing your baby to sleep, staying with your baby until they fall asleep, and helping your baby back to sleep in the middle of the night. And if you're not nursing to sleep, it could be that you're rocking them to sleep, patting them to sleep, rocking or bouncing them to sleep. Whatever it is a very high energy strategy for helping your baby to sleep. Now, if you've given any thought to why you have so much fear about this, why are you so afraid that these things are going to develop into bad habits that you're just going to have to put more work into changing later? I'm going to break down some of the reasons I see when I explore this with families. One is that you think that you will have to do this forever, that there is no end in sight, and you perhaps think that this is your job to fix. That if you do not do anything active to change nursing to sleep or staying with your baby until they're asleep or helping them back to sleep when they wake up in the night, that nothing is going to change. I think often we forget that it takes 2 to tango. When you are supporting your baby to sleep, it is because you're meeting one of the needs that they have for help to get to sleep. But they are part of this equation too, and they're changing over time, just like you. I believe there are no bad habits. Full stop. No qualifiers. No bad habits. There are only habits that support us, and there are habits that don't. And some of the habits that we're most afraid of are simply the things that work right now to support whatever it is, in this case, sleep. So when we are nursing our babies to sleep, rocking them to sleep, staying with them to fall asleep, and responding in the night, we're meeting a need that will change over time, and a need that we get to decide how we meet it. I want to draw a comparison right now between all of those fears around those habits around sleep and compare it to diapers. We use diapers with our babies. Unless you are doing elimination communication, you're going to be using diapers. Cloth diapers, disposable diapers, it doesn't matter. What if you transferred all that fear around all of the quote-unquote bad habits that you're developing or that you're worried about with sleep, and you transferred it all over towards using diapers with your baby? They need diapers now. Diapers are not a habit. Diapers are the thing you use to help your baby until they are able to use the toilet, right? It is a medium for bridging over to where they're going to be able to use the toilet. You might be looking forward to the day that they're not using diapers. You may even want to nudge things along and speed things along, although we all know someone who has tried a little bit too early and it hasn't been the right time, and we've had to pause, give up the idea of giving up diapers at this point and just let time carry on. But we don't fear that they're never going to be out of diapers. I'll say the only exception to moving on from diapers would be a child who is not physiologically capable or physically capable of being able to use the toilet, in which case diapers are still not a bad habit. They are what supports a child in doing what they need to do. Diapers are the way to meet the need. So let's look again at those main fears that I'm seeing. The nursing to sleep or rocking to sleep, staying with your baby, responding in the night. These are all ways to meet the need. The need is for a young child or baby to have support to bridge into sleep. Bridge into that most vulnerable state where they are unconscious, where moving from conscious and awake to asleep takes a bit of a leap of faith. And the things that you are doing to support them to get there are simply the supports you're giving to meet that need. So what makes it so hard compared to diapers? Well, diapers are pretty straightforward, right? Other than picking the brand or choosing the cloth diaper you're going to use, you use a diaper, you get an area set up to do the changing that you need to do, you make sure you have wipes, maybe a diaper genie, but it's pretty much it. Diapers are the thing. There aren't a lot of other options. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to decide. The way to meet your baby's need around continence is to provide diapers. With sleep, however, there are many ways to support sleep. We've already talked about a lot of them today, bouncing, rocking, holding, nursing. So choosing how you support the need and figuring out what ways support your baby's sleep the best is hard. It's not as clear as throwing on a diaper. I would say as well that the need varies way more than diapers, right? Some babies are able to fall into sleep fairly easily. They may be pretty laid back babies, so they don't need the same kind of support as a very sensitive, highly sensitive, or distractible, or non-predictable baby. I don't see those parents that have babies that don't need those things, and I think most babies do, at least for some of the time. I think also we've been told that it's all on us to get them to independent sleep. And so unlike diapers, where we know sometime in the horizon, we're going to be setting up a potty or a smaller seat on the toilet for moving away from diapers, we know that it's a discrete period of time that we're helping them navigate using a toilet instead of diapers. It is a period of change. Whereas with sleep development is constantly changing, even from the 2-week-old to the 2-month-old, the 2-month-old from the 8-month-old, the 8-month-old from the 3-year-old. There is huge developmental shift around what sleep looks like, how babies are sleeping in longer stretches, how deep their sleep is, how much time they spend in REM sleep, how much separation anxiety they have, or fears, or dreaming, or any number of things that really make this way more complicated than diapers. And last, and I've said this already, but it's worth saying again because I think many of you are probably carrying this heavy burden on your shoulders. If we don't do something about it, it's not going to get better. Whereas often with diapers and toilets, we see some pretty big leaps just from babies either seeing other children use the toilet or just wanting to be like you and not having a diaper. So what if instead of carrying this burden of fear around bad habits, you reminded yourself of 3 things. 1, my baby's needs are there to be met, not changed. 2, I get to choose how best to meet this need. I can pick the ways that I respond. I can shift things to make it more sustainable for me. And 3rd, if it's working right now, I can let it work for right now without changing it. So yes, I can choose, but I can also choose just stay right here where we are. And when it stops working, then I can change it. I'm going to say those again so that you don't have to rewind if you're finding this resonates. 1, my baby's needs are there to be met. 2, I get to choose how best to meet the needs. And 3, if what I'm choosing to do now is working, I can leave it be. When it stops working, I can change it. That means that whatever you're doing now is not a bad habit. It is something that is working. And when it's not, you change it. When you change it, and this is where I think another layer of fear comes in, we get worried about how much work it's going to be. I know a lot of the dialogue around sleep is saying if you don't change it now, it's only going to get harder. And I would argue vehemently against that mindset, because often what I see with parents, when I support them in meeting the need in front of them, meeting what their baby needs now, finding easier ways to meet the need, mind you, but the need is still there. And we wait to make major changes, like say in how your baby is falling asleep, until they are at a particular plateau in social emotional development, or in moving past teething, or they figured out crawling, so that's interrupting sleep. We're going to wait a little bit through that, or family vacations. When we get through that to a point where things are a little bit more flexible, there's a little more wiggle room from your baby because they're a little more adaptable, they're a little more mature, sleep is looking more mature, those natural stretches of sleep are starting to pull longer. That is the time where you can do some nudging and wiggling to make things look a little different than they are. And I found with parents that can wait, that can just take that deep breath and just settle into what's working right now and wait for some other developmental maturation to happen, that things can happen much more smoothly at an older age than if you're trying to be the engine that's pushing things forward. I've talked in a previous episode called What's Driving Your Baby's Sleep about who really is in the driver's seat of development with your baby. And so often we try to sit in the driver's seat, but it is your baby's brain and your baby's body that is developing and changing that opens this up. So when we can wait, it allows our baby to be driving that process. For us to be choosing how to meet the need, we're the ones kind of holding everything in. We're literally the container to hold in all the needs and to figure out what needs need to be met and how we're going to meet them. But it's your baby that's driving this development forward. You're supporting your baby with the environment, the loving environment, the unconditional love, the way you've set up the sleep space. But beyond that, this is your baby's brain growing. And when almost without fail, I'm trying to think of a circumstance where it hasn't worked, to just pause and lean into the present need and then shift things as development shifts. But what I am remembering right now, and I'm smiling because the sense of relief for parents who have carried around this fear of breaking a bad habit and then waiting for that kind of sweet spot of development to make changes, the relief that they've had with how much easier it is than they expected is just a beautiful thing. So if you find yourself carrying that heavy burden of how you're going to change a bad habit, I hope that shifting that into understanding that this is about meeting the need and that you get to choose, and that choosing not to change something in this moment and reflecting a little bit on how that need is going to be met now and kind of contemplating about the future, but focusing mainly on now. I hope that this brings you some relief. I hope it takes off that heavy burden that you've been carrying around, this fear of bad habits that partly comes from internally, right? We take on this job very seriously, this parenting job, and thank goodness we do. But we also get the message from externally that somehow we're going to royally mess them up if we end up with quote unquote bad habits. But that can be changed whenever the time is right. Hope this brought you some reassurance. If it has, please drop me a line. I would love to hear what stood out for you in this episode. I also encourage and will remind you again of the free workshop that is coming up. I have given this workshop a number of times. I love giving it because it is a big reframe around what strategies that you can use because you understand your baby's sleep better. I look forward to catching you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I do hope that you found the information and perspectives in this podcast episode helpful to you as you navigate your baby's sleep development. Of course, this podcast provides general information and it isn't tailored to your family's reality or the specific needs of your baby. If you're concerned about your baby's sleep or health, be sure to reach out to your healthcare provider. If you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you need a place to feel nurtured and reassured, you can find me on Instagram at familysleep.ca. Until next episode, look for the connections that support you and your baby.